Welcome to Biztech's Jobs and Careers Show. On the show where we bring HR and industry experts to give you insights into the job and talent market and the career landscape across the Asia Pacific region. Now today the focus is on Malaysia, and we focus on discussing the topic of nurturing Malaysia's talent through greater industry and academia cooperation. Now to bring expert insights into the conversation, we have our guest today, who are Dr. NorAzmi Alias, who's the Senior Vice President, Research and Talent Management at CREST, as well as Eric Chan, the Vice President and General Manager of the IoT Group Customer Engineering from Intel Corporation. Now, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Hi, Brian. Thank you.
Now, let's start with you, Dr. NorAzmi, because people know what Intel does, but not everyone knows what CREST actually does. Could you highlight what you do and some of the things that you've done over the last few years since you've started?
Thank you, Brian, for that opportunity. I'm going to do something different from what normally people do, try to read through what CREST is. The acronym has its own meaning. I'm just going to share the journey because I was in Motorola, a two-way radio operation in Penang before I joined CREST. And we basically were facing challenges in trying to nurture more talent for the industry. We were having problems trying to hire the right talent for Motorola itself. Before I joined CREST, and we see that a similar problem were faced by a company like Intel and Osram and other big corporations. I think that was one of the key reasons why CREST was formed to ensure that we have a sustainable industry relevant talent will fit the industry requirements. So that was one of the main area what we do in CREST. The other part, the most important part, is to foster the industry academic collaboration, because prior to CREST, the academic trying to do more of their own area of research, which is sometimes there are gaps between what they do and the expectation from the industry, where industry are looking at, can you solve my problem now, right? And there was the gap where the academy was looking at, I want to do the very forward-looking 5 to 10 years kind of research work, but there's always this missing gap between the expectation from industry and what the academic want to do. So it's a platform to bring closer the academia and also the industry, working on industry relevant research, where the topics of research are driven by the big corporation like Intel, Motorola, Osram, and a few others. And that's what basically what CREST does to ensure that the academic research done in the university, even the talent that been groomed, been trained in academia, are trained properly according to the industry needs. So those are the two main areas. Later we can talk about the potential of how do you transform this, forming a tech startup, forming deep tech SME in Malaysia, because to do any of that, either done by big company like Intel or done by local company or startup, you still need these two assets: the talent asset and also the new knowledge or innovation asset that has to come from industry-driven activities. So basically, what CREST does is a bridge between industry and academia, but driving and guiding the academia to do things that are more relevant to the industry rather than just do things on their own, without any kind of a particular guidance. So I hope that kind of give a little bit of a understanding what CREST is and what CREST does, and I think that will help people to figure out, okay, you are more like the guy in the middle, kind of gelling between the two worlds of academic and industry, facilitating, orchestrating, coordinating, whatever the kind of role of a middleman, I'll call them, that we do at the very best. Yeah.
Now over to you, Eric. Now Intel, is a household name. Is one of the first big MNC investors in Penang all those years ago. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do at Intel, and also how Intel has been involved with CREST?
Yeah, so thanks, Brian. And you mentioned it, it's true. So next year, Intel Malaysia will be celebrating our 50th anniversary in Malaysia. So that's wow. That's a milestone. And what I do is very interesting. I have one of the best job in Intel. where I take the best of Intel technology and our products and help our customers to put it into their production, design the system, and then all the way to production. So along the way, we provide reference design, we answer some of the technical issue, and we optimize the performance for them. So it's really a good job, and it's a global role. So while I'm based in Malaysia, but I have teams all over the world to support our customers. And then our partnership with CREST is very simple. The reality is this: we continue to hire a lot of people, and talent is really the fuel for our innovation. So, and sometimes you realize that even partnering university sometimes not enough, and CREST is a good partner, intermediary between industry and the academia, and they also bring in a lot of other partners to make sure that we put the right focus on developing our talent.
Okay, I'm gonna start with CREST again, because talent is so important for Malaysia in terms of moving up the value chain. Now, Doc, can you explain to us what has CREST done in this space really since you've been formed, I think 8 or 9 years ago?
So we are looking at two key areas on talent. One, of course, where we do this postgraduate research project, we're nurturing the masters and PhD. But the way that we do the nurturing of a master and PhD, they are working on industry projects, basically the projects that are in the postgraduate research that's done by the academia. Through all the projects are partnering industry partners. So we got project with Intel, project with the other big corporation. So while they're doing the research, they're continuing getting the so-called feedback and reviews by the industry, and the industry becoming more like one is providing the requirement. The other could be also the supervising and the mentor, also gatekeeping, right? To say, hey, we need this project, this talent to deliver this kind of activity, which is very different from the way academic research has been done, right? So that normally you do the research work for 1 year, then you do a review, and there goes it, right? But here you have a very regimented review process to ensure that things are working well. The talent are getting the right kind of coaching. They get the right tools. So that's one part of what we do in building talent and people with masters and PhD, right? The other part is we call it the building the so-called the foundation of the talent that are in masters that the industry are looking for, which is the undergraduate talent pool, right? And we've been hiring, we've been training between 8,000 to 9,000 over the years. And they are trained essentially with the skills the industry are looking for. So between what we do in 2012, 2013, and what we do now, there are always rapid changes in terms of the requirement of the skills by the industry. So we're looking at very simple embedded, so-called, technology in the beginning. But now a lot of this, will evolve everything with software, right? So there's a lot more involvement of the software knowledge. How do you ensure that you get the relevant basic skills of C++, Python before you can talk about, oh, I need to make a very smart and autonomous kind of a solution. So these are the method of how the talent are being developed, through CREST program, and we do review on the requirement by with the industry every 2 years, right? Sometimes even more than that. So, for example, in the IoT space, in the AI, in terms of the IC design, we do a lot of discussion with many different companies. Intel always been in those areas because IC design and embedded system, IoT, they are in those space, right? And Intel has been very key, partners for us to give the requirement. What are you going to be developing in the next few years? What kind of talent do you need? So in a way, we are collating those information of the not so distant future, but probably in immediate, 2-3 years. And then we said, okay, guys, we need this. Let's go and talk to the academia. What do you have in your portfolio? Is your curriculum has the right kind of content? If not, what kind of so-called intervention can we do? But you know how it is, with academia, it takes a while to get it to change. Right? So we said, okay, let's do our open program where it's more like augmenting of the learning by the student. So we do a program where industry players like Intel and other partners came in and provide their basically they are giving away their expert to train, and even providing the latest gadget or the platform on IT platform for this talent to be trained on. And I think that has been our a way of doing things, for the last 7-8 years, and we see, there's a big impact of producing the high value talent. Now, a lot of these guys have been hired by the likes of Intel, even some of the local boys like Vitrox. They have been hiring a lot of this talent that coming from the CREST talent program. Yeah. So maybe I'll stop there first, and then let you move on to the next question.
Okay, I want to get to you, Eric, because Intel, as you said, you're going to celebrate your 50th anniversary. Intel started off by setting up a plant here, but over the years, you've had a very big impact on building the talent pool in Malaysia. Could you kind of walk us through how that whole process happened, including you setting up R&D centers here? And interestingly enough, of course, many people based in Malaysia, like yourself, actually have a global role out of Malaysia.
Yeah, like 49, 50 years is a long time, right? As everyone knows, we started with assembly and test. And that was the time that we naturally built up the whole talent, the capability. And there was also time we brought in a lot of the, I would say, the partners, the local ecosystem. And we created a cluster for a lot of assembly and tests. And you can see now today, it's a lot of great names out in Penang, Malaysia, are kind of a spin-off, or rather they got started in partnership with Intel. But since then, it's been a long 49 years journey right now for up to this year. We have added a lot more back office, design and development, even sales and marketing right now. So as we go along, in most cases, we can't do things by ourselves. We need partner, we need ecosystem partner, we need, so-called the talent, and continuously, whether it's assembly and test, silicon design on VLSI, sales and marketing, business development, in my case, system platform development, board designs. So we do bring along, and I think this is again the good value of having a good MNC, a good company, even SME, to kind of anchor in the country, and then they create the cluster. And then, of course, in most cases, we are so leading edge that we don't have the talent, we don't have the experienced people, so we have to do it ourselves. We got to work with the universities, and Dr. NorAzmi share a little bit. We actually created a lot of curriculum with the university on embedded, on IoT, on AI now. And then in some cases, we also can't do it ourselves. We work with the government ministry, the appropriate one. Recently, we just did one on VLSI design of up to almost close to about 100 plus people. And I'm not too sure you're aware, Intel has the largest number of silicon design engineers in the country. Right, and then of course in some cases we partner with CREST, where we share the same so-called same goals to drive this whole high tech, talent development and engagement of the industry, academia, and of course the government agencies coming in as well. Right, so I think I will see this continue to evolve, and more so lately we also reach out in partnership with the government to engage with the SMEs. So we have this AI for SME program where we provided the starter kit for AI for them to get on board, right? This is what we do, and kind of align with our corporate goals and good for the country and the economy and the SMEs. And of course, having CREST as a partner makes it so much easier, so that way they can take and scale, and then we can initiate it, and then we have a partner to go run with it.
One of the things, Eric, you didn't mention, which I found out in my research, Intel has seeded so many companies within the Penang ecosystem, because I think some of the contract manufacturers, some of the testing equipment providers who are listed on Bursa Malaysia and stuff, they're all ex-Intel engineers.
That is so true, Brian, because I'm not going to claim too much for credit for Intel, but it's part of the ecosystem. It's actually, if you look at it, one time Intel and some of the key MNCs, even like Motorola, where NorAzmi was from, we are like training ground, the training ground for the local entrepreneurs. And you're right, if you trace everything, it's all come out from the so-called the original 7 companies that started over here.
Yes.
But again, I think this is what we do, and when the ecosystem, the cluster gets stronger, it is also better for us. So that way we can tap on them, they could help us out, and then they go global, they become better, we build talent together. So I feel the partnership across the industry, the government, and some of the academia and bodies like CREST makes it very, very fertile for the ecosystem and the people to develop.
So this is historical, but then one of the key challenges now is this: technology is evolving very quickly, and there is now several gaps that have emerged in Malaysia in terms of talent as we move forward to Industry 4.0 and beyond.
Right.
Now, perhaps each of you could start by giving us some insights into where these gaps exist right now.
Eric, you want to start?
Okay, I start, and I'm quite sure Dr. NorAzmi has a lot to share. The biggest piece that we see, not so much for the universities. Actually, universities, we think we are getting the cream, and maybe because Intel being a bit of brand name, we are getting good talents. One year we so-called hire about 300 interns alone, and then 400 graduate trainees. People who have graduated and then work with us, kind of stuff. So in terms of getting the talent out of universities, I think it's good enough, at least for Intel, and then we train them. We make sure they are well trained. The biggest gap we see are experienced hire. So it's not easy to find experienced hire because all the companies are also hiring, and people may not want to move. So that one we have to figure out how to maybe get a bit more experienced hire for some of the companies who really need to kind of upskill themselves. And then the other piece is really cut across. As we move into this digital transformation, more and more are actually so-called software development. So if you don't have enough software talent, you can't move into maybe Industry 4.0 digital transformation. And that's the one that we right now have a big program with CREST to figure out, can we do a bit more of a software development talent program, taking a lot of what we are doing in Intel and Motorola and other MNCs and then share that with CREST so that we could kind of bring in the universities to work with us.
Yeah, just to continue with what Eric started, the big gap, as I see, the basic talent that we have, they have the relevant, the right knowledge to be able to get into the job. But when we see in terms of even while in Motorola, the main challenge is how do you translate those knowledge and put into designing a product or developing into programming code that that will be used inside a product. And this is where the gaps that are understanding how to innovate a solution from the basic knowledge given. How do you incorporate the new requirement of programming and coding of the electronic devices. So one way of doing this is by having a company like Intel to provide the basic technology into the program that we are running, together with Intel and many other companies, and we are going through the AI for Youth and few other program that look in terms of how do you use Intel technology as a platform to build product, right? And those are the things that we are working on right now. But the other part that we also look in terms of how do we encourage more of these young students to be able to develop their idea into a concept, right? And this is completely deviating from the normal way how academics are training their talent. And we are challenging our young talents. Even we go down to high school to say, can you now solve the problem of how do you ensure that you have a very clean water coming from whatever sources so that everybody can have that, or we can monitor the condition of a patient without having them to go and see a doctor, right? And you'd be surprised that some of these ideas from the young talent in the teenagers or the young so-called undergraduate student, by challenging them, you'll be able to see how they acquire the knowledge and apply the knowledge in building solution. And that's what companies like Intel, Motorola, and whatnot are looking for. And if we create more of that, then it can be a lot of spillover that if the local boys, the local company can gain the benefit of this, trained talent by, able to creatively develop new solution for the market that's probably not even there. And I think we want to continue to evolve from just learning how to do programming, then learning how to actually, make product, based on somebody else's design, come up with their own idea, their own design, and perhaps, this is where, we move from a user technology to a creator kind of an industry. So we want to create more of that, talent that can create new product, and so that we can have more, talent that can, become, maybe perhaps their own own their own startup company some days, right? Just from this program. So the bottom line, we want them to be hireable by Intel, hireable by the big corporation. The second and the third tier is, can we create them to be able to instill potentially new tech idea, new product idea. Perhaps some of this we can fund further for postgraduate research. I mean, that's the key thing that we are looking at.
So you've also done, I think there's some youth initiatives like AI for Youth and the Great Lab and things like that. That's also an example of some successful industry and academic initiatives. Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
At times like this, during the pandemic, we also recognize, right, some of the students, university students, some they can't get back to campus, some they don't have access to the lab. So we just did another launch to open up so-called our lab. We call it System Cloud for Universities. So that now 10 universities have signed up, where the students can kind of log in, remote login, access to some of our system development kit and software, so they can still get the work done. So while they may not get to the lab, but for the projects that they are working so-called on the Intel platform, they get access to the environment kind of remotely, and so get the work done and get the practical experience that they need.
In fact, gentlemen, one of the things that I think as a citizen and also as a nation, both of you have touched on a little bit, is really about not just gearing these students knowledge so that they can go work for Intel or go work for Motorola, Osram or whatever, but really about Malaysia become more of an innovator and a creator economy. What are some of the initiatives that have been done to facilitate that? Because essentially, if you look at the Stanford-Silicon Valley model, which is what we aspire to, there's industry and there is academia collaboration. But then what happened after that is they all went out, they worked for big companies, then they spun out and then started creating their own companies. And that's where you had that virtuous cycle of the ecosystem. That's where perhaps we should be seeing more. We've seen it in the hardware area in the previous generation with the ex-Intel, Motorola people that have gone out and set up all these testing companies and being tier 2 suppliers or contract manufacturers and so forth. But now that you've said, hey, the opportunities and the gaps are actually in software, what specifically do you think you can do to then build that base talent pool, not just to work for Intel and so forth, but really to build a pool so that they can all go and do their own little startups together? Because not everybody, as you said, 300 people, 400 people are hired by Intel, but what do the rest do?
So maybe on my part, I can share, right, the evolution of some of these high-tech companies from assembly to test, then to silicon design. And I would say the next so-called addition, a lot of it will be on software development. So in some sense, we are doing our part, training, nurturing, and building more software developers. And then as they get more experience, and yes, some would naturally leave us to do startup and join other companies, but you do need the talent. These are like the fertile ground for things to kind of emerge. So I think we are continuing to do that part. And once we build the infrastructure, the base of talent, I'm quite sure a lot of these young people who are very entrepreneurial and they know how to code and they're able to get enough, so-called friends and colleagues to join them. Very soon, you will see a lot of the software-related startups that also coming out of this so-called this MNC or SMEs. And I reminded sometimes ourselves, right? We have such a good thing. We have all these MNCs and MNCs over here. We got to work with them. There's no reason that we would look elsewhere when you have such a great partners over here that are ready to work with us. So sometimes we got to remind ourselves that the great companies are here. Let's work with them and continue to build the talent to the right directions to where the market is going.
Maybe I'll add to that. I think you brought out a good point in terms of, we have these big corporations like Intel and between Intel and all the 7 samurais, that started, ENE in Penang. There's a lot of history, a lot of knowledge, a lot of so-called, new companies also created, and you train a lot of talent, from all these big multinationals, and it by itself is, you can say it's like industry, so-called training ground, right? Where you train the talent, and of course, you know that the talent will not stay in one company for too long, right? And because and that's the beauty of having a big corporation, so-called, fighting for this top talent, because then you are getting more competitive by nature, and there are also faster evolution of technology, and because of that, we are always in the situation that we have gap in the talent pool. And we said, is it because we don't have talent? We have a lot of talent in Malaysia, right? And by the way, Intel probably 99%, 95% are Malaysian, right? And Motorola that I was before,
99.
99%. And all these guys are actually not just the manufacturing, not just the designer, they're also the architects of the products that Intel sell, Motorola sell in the global market. And we make products and we design and develop architecture for global product goes in the global market. And the notion that Malaysia do not have good talent, forget about it, put it aside. We have enough good talent, we just continue to build them, right? And it's an equation will not having an end, right? It will always increase in terms of requirement. There's always more things to do. There are more challenging, technology, challenging, programming, coding need to be learned. And that's the beauty of it. But if we don't work with the market leaders like Intel, the Motorola, the Austria, and whatnot, we can lose so-called track of what does the university have to do, what kind of topic to train this talent that coming out from college. So we have to work with this big corporation, because they define what is the next generation technology, right? And we have these guys in our backyard, right? And right in front of us. And if we go and look for somewhere else, I mean, then something wrong with that equation. So, maybe I'll stop there first and let Brian, pick our brain again.
So here's the interesting dilemma that we are faced now as a nation. So obviously, because of facilitation by companies like CREST together as the glue to bring industry and also then academia together, there has been a lot of progress in the last 8 to 9 years in terms of that collaboration, and therefore churning out talent that is industry ready or work ready.
Yeah.
However, as a nation, we have a problem. We are not attracting, beyond the 7 samurais and so forth, other large organizations, global companies to come and set up shop in Malaysia. Why do you think this is a problem?
If you ask a lot of the new investors, I would say, if not the top 3 concerns that they have are the talent pool, right? And therefore, in some cases, we are doing our part, because if you come up to the northern region, I would say maybe other regions as well, just not enough good engineers to go around. And therefore, the biggest concern is this. And we also don't want some of the lower end. We want high knowledge workers, and these are tough to find.
Right.
And I think we are doing our partner with CREST, with academia, and so forth. But I think this is one I would say we can solve it, and we are working on it. And then the rest of it is really the market condition, the government policies, and so forth. That naturally we have no control over. But on our part, we are extending ourselves, working with CREST and other universities to make sure the talent will always be there to feed the market.
So to kind of put another spin to your question, Brian, it takes 2 to tango, right? If investors expect to come into Malaysia, say, hey, I will only come to Malaysia if you have all the talent that I need. It will never be that, right? You need to know what is the basic so-called knowledge base they must have. And then what are the we call a delta 20% need to be developed, specifically for attracting the investment, right? And I think, we have example like, for example, Osram, even Intel, and Motorola the last few years, they are looking at certain new investment to attract to Malaysia, for example, within this corporation. And by investing in the relevant so-called, area, for example, when we work on the epitaxy research between UM and Wisdom Malaya USM and Mr. California Santa Barbara. Because of that, we're able to attract the first epitaxy manufacturing by Osram into Malaysia in Kulim, right? And €1 billion investment. So it's never like, okay, we come to Malaysia if you have this. but you have to look in terms of what is the basic, knowledge that we have. We have a strong foundation in terms of people are trained on, language, on mathematics, on programming, on sciences, and how do you further build that, so-called basic knowledge to skills that they can, enhance on to, do high-skill jobs. Now we have, so-called a larger pool of people can do very high-end manufacturing of epitaxy, the layer that gives you the light in LED, for example. We never had that before in Malaysia, and now we have that. And we never have in Motorola, a group that are, define the so-called audio performance of the two-way radio. It happened because there's a collaboration between Motorola and academia to see how can build this so-called knowledge, and not just what Motorola does, but also support from the like USM, building so-called their labs on vibration and acoustic, and that kind of have a spillover effect that other companies who say, I want to see how I can solve my acoustic audio problem, and we have this lab, right? And it's one of those things, you need, the beauty of working with the multinational like Intel and Motorola or whatnot, they give CREST, it's like a 5 to even, I can say even up to 10 years foresight, what's coming, right? And that's what happened for us. So for other sectors, they had to do the same thing, right? They cannot expect that, oh, yes, I need to attract new investors to the country without investing on what we need to do ahead of the game, what's coming, what we want to attract in the next 5 to 10 years, and let's do some investment now, right? So these are some of the.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the so-called the foresight, the little bit of a opportunistic initial investment you have to do to attract more things in the next few years down the road. And this doesn't just happen, say, yeah, we just gonna have talent like that because we have investor coming in. We have to build our capacity, our capability to attract, right? And otherwise, we will lose a lot of this, potential investment to the country.
Eric, any final thoughts?
No, I think this is good, and Brian, I'm glad you invited us to kind of share this, because a lot of times people don't realize it. We don't just get to where we are by just not doing anything. There is a lot of work needs to be done, and for some companies like Intel, who has been here close to 50 years, there are a lot of effort that we put in. And we also take care of the community, we take care of the talent development, we partner with government agencies and bodies such as CREST and universities. So you've got to be engaged. And to Dr. Azmi's point, yes, you got to come in, naturally you got a bit of a startup environment to get going, but I would maybe encourage all the others, companies, MNCs, SMEs, to reach out. And CREST is a good body to facilitate that, so that we all can partake into this kind of the talent development, industry development, and make it even more successful for more future investment or even startup that is coming up from the people that have gone through the process, whether they are with MNCs or SMEs, that we, as long as we have good talent who are well trained, well exposed, then I'm sure there is a bright future for Malaysia.
So likewise, I'd like to thank Intel and Eric of the last few years. Intel has been strong supporters of what CREST does. One of the few companies that continue to engage with the talent, with the academia, and also helping other companies. I think these are very important part of having this so-called the samurais of the 70s continue to be in the country. And continue to look into how you build the future, right? So 50 years, just started, another 50 years maybe, right? For Intel, and thank you for the partnership, the support, and the trust for CREST to work with Intel over the years. Yeah, thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you,
hey,
Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Pleasure.
Glad to be here.
Now, we've been speaking to Dr. NorAzmi Alias, Senior Vice President, Research and Talent Management at CREST, and Eric Chan, Vice President and General Manager of the IoT Group Customer Engineering at Intel Corporation. I'm Brian Fernandez on Biztech's Jobs and Careers show. This interview will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks a lot for tuning in.